Hi, this is Mike Koenigs, and getting attention and getting engagement from an audience is in some ways harder now than it's ever been with all the noise that's going on online. However, the equipment has changed dramatically. In fact, I'm standing in a virtual set right now, and I'll share more about that in a couple moments. And right now, I'm actually using this beautiful camera setup, and all it is an iPhone 6 Plus with a selfie stick and a microphone, and this thing can shoot production quality. I'm talking television quality without having to have a camera operator anymore. It's really astonishing. But that's not really what this video is all about. It's about how to get and keep attention, and I'm also going to share a couple personal stories. If you don't know much about me, my name is Mike Koenigs, and I've been online now for almost 20 years. But I actually had a lot of struggle getting going as a young boy, and I'll tell you a little bit about that story. So I'm going to actually set this camera, this prop, out of the way right now and tell you a little bit about it. So when I was about 5 years old, I was a normal kid, happy. I used to like to sing, and my dad plays guitar. And when I was in kindergarten, there were a bunch of us all sitting around a circle. My dad came in, was playing guitar, and I was singing. And for some reason, some kids made fun of me. And from that time on, I never, ever wanted to be in the front of anything ever again. I refused to be in plays. I quit singing until I was 47 years old. I'm 48 now. And I also was terrified of being on camera and actually presenting myself. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the possibility and potential in what you can do, and put this in the context of something we call live casting. Now, I know that's a big jump from being 5 years old to live casting, but I promise you it's going to make sense, because I didn't start presenting and being on camera until very, very recently, and live casting is something that's completely changed my life. Now, first of all, just to give you a little bit of framework on what live casting is, because I just showed you a little slide a moment ago that showed a piece of green fabric and a camera and a laptop, and that's essentially what it takes right now to be able to broadcast from a virtual set like the one you're looking at right now. Now, in a moment, my team is actually going to pull the curtains away and show you that I'm in fact standing on a chroma key background screen right now, which is nothing more than a piece of green fabric. And when this appears, you'll see that it's actually green. He's going to knock this out. So I'm able to just stand in front of a camera and then put a background behind me that looks like $1 million set. And with technology like YouTube Live or like Google Hangouts, you're actually able to be seen as though you're in a very, very valuable and expensive environment. It's a great way to get attention and also create engagement. But I want to explain this in a bigger context, which is what live casting is. Now, live casting is when you use online live video along with chat, and you either create products, or you sell programs, or you can teach very, very quickly and easily. And that's actually been responsible for over half of all the revenue that my companies have produced over the past 7 years. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is about a little bit about live casting, but also about the history of this, so you kind of understand my story, and also how no matter where you are, if you're a rank beginner, or you've spent time in front of camera, or you're thinking about creating products, or maybe being an author or a speaker or presenter, how you can leverage this incredible technology to educate, entertain, engage, and make more money. So with that, I do want to tell you a little story about how I got interested in this, and it goes back to when I was just about 5 years old. I used to sit and I used to watch a little television show. This is at least what I remember right now. I don't know if you remember this little song. I'll whistle it for you right now. It goes, that's the theme song from the Andy Griffith Show. Well, I can remember there was a breaking point where a commercial would play, and something like this would always come on screen. I'm going to play that for you right now. Here it goes.
Anyone who ever goes fishing should own a pocket fisherman. Compact enough to fit inside glove compartments, lunch boxes, backpacks, It's rod, reel, line, bobber, and hook. With a Johnson reel and twin plex rod that reacts to the slightest nibble, yet strong enough to haul in the big ones. O'Peel's Pocket Fisherman Spin Casting Outfit, including bait, only $19.95. Now all you need is a place to fish.
Now available for a limited time only at Woolworth, Woolco, Times Square, Corvettes, Genovese Drug, Valley Fair, Modell's Shoppers World, and Two Guys.
Well, that was Ronco, and that was the Pocket Fisherman, and for whatever reason, I was captivated by demonstrations and commercials like that in much the same way that when I was brought to the Minnesota State Fair with my family, I'd always rush to the demonstration tents where there were pitchmen, and they were slicing and dicing and cutting through cans, and I just was blown away by the fact that these people could demonstrate a product, captivate an audience, and a whole bunch of people would line up to buy those programs and products. I thought, wow, these guys have magical powers. To me, they were like magicians. Well, as time went on, I ended up being captivated by the original Blue Blockers sunglasses commercial also by a guy named Joe Sugarman. Well, as time went on, I would actually eventually meet him, and he became an incredible mentor to me. He sold over $1 billion worth of sunglasses on television. But as time went on, something else happened, and that was I became an entrepreneur. I started creating programs, and I started a company with a friend of mine called Digital Cafe. We were doing some early interactive multimedia back in the 1990s. As time went on, we struggled as entrepreneurs. Up times, down times. At one point, we had some very bad luck, made some bad business decisions, and we lost a lot of money. And at one point, I was about $250,000 in debt. I was paying my employees with credit card checks, and I was also recently divorced as well. Things were not going well for me, to say the least. Well, over a period of time, I met up with a friend of mine who I saw go through a rapid, radical transformation. And I asked him, what was it that actually happened in his life that enabled him to go from basically somewhat of an alcoholic, actually a real alcoholic, spending almost 7 years in college, having a job he didn't like, to in 6 months writing a book, speaking, traveling, and losing a bunch of weight and also getting cleaned up. Well, it turned out, he told me, he had gotten introduced to Tony Robbins. Well, that night I vowed to myself that if I ever saw Tony Robbins in one of his commercials, I would buy his product immediately. It was called Personal Power 2. Well, here's what happened. That night I went home, opened up my mailbox, and inside was a brand new credit card. I don't know how it happened, because at that point I was surviving on my Super America gas card. But I opened that thing up, grabbed the credit card, and went upstairs, and I'm like, okay, I can survive at least a couple more months here. Well, I turned on the TV, and you wouldn't believe what I saw, but guess what? Yep, it was Tony Robbins. And this was the package he was showing. It was called Personal Power 2. Well, I watched that little infomercial, and I had made a vow to myself just about an hour and a half before that the next time I saw Tony Robbins, that guy with the big teeth on TV, I'd buy his stuff. Well, picked up the 800 line, made a call, and I had that product rushed to me. I paid the upsell charge that the salesperson gave me an opportunity to do. 2 days later, I had this box of stuff. I opened it up, listened to the first CD, and boom. My life, I thought, was going to change. Things were going to be different. I had hope for one of the first times in my life. And inside was a coupon good for $500 off one of Tony's programs. Well, I had that brand new credit card, picked up the phone again, made a call, and on the other end was a call from a guy named Chris Hendrickson. He was my account rep, and he sold me into one of Tony's programs called Life Mastery. Turns out one of the events that was taking place was 2 weeks from then. So I racked up, I signed up for all the programs, got myself a flight, had a shared hotel room, and that was pretty much the end of that credit card, all right? 2 weeks later, I am horrified. I am in a room with almost 3,000 people who are jumping up and down, screaming and hugging each other. And where I come from in Minnesota, men don't hug other men, unless it means something else. Well, anyway, I spent 2 days completely horrified, saying, this place doesn't have anything to do with me. And eventually I decided I'd jump up and down and hug people too. And when I left that event, my life was transformed. My life was transformed by something I purchased on an infomercial, something that I reacted to with direct response, something I had been observing a lot of my youth and loving. Well, what wound up happening is, over a period of time, I got interested in more of this online marketing stuff. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this part. This is the most important thing of all. I came home within 90 days, got the business back on track. 6 months later, it was being acquired by a $1 billion a year advertising agency. It didn't make me rich, but it made me comfortable for the first time in my life, being raised in a lower middle class environment. And it began with an infomercial that I responded to. Well, I got interested in online marketing, and my very first product was something called the Internet Infomercial Toolkit. I contacted some of the biggest infomercial pioneers, people like Joe Sugarman, a guy named Tim Hawthorne who produced the Time Life music infomercials, and several other people as well. And they all gave me their time and participated and helped me analyze and figure out how to adapt the television infomercial to work in video online. So I adapted the television infomercial to work online. Well, as time went on, that product was successful. I started to speak. For the first time, I got in front of the camera. So I left my 5-year-old fears behind and my humiliation and my shame, and I decided to be in front of the camera. And this is where it came from. I have Tony Robbins to thank for that. Well, I ended up eventually creating a product called Traffic Geyser, which was a tool for distributing video online and generating traffic. And then there was something else that was really cool that happened. I promise this will all make sense to you very soon in case you're a little bit lost here. People who were using Traffic Geyser were really interested in video marketing. They were interested in persuasion and influence, how to get attention, how to grow their businesses. And we got a lot of feedback from people saying, "We love your tools. Can you teach us more about how to market successfully online?" So we developed a program that we called the Firepower Business Builder Blueprint. It was a series of all the best practices that we actually learned from our own customers about how they were using our tools to market and promote themselves. Well, that was about the time when launches became very, very popular online, and we decided to do one of our own launches. And here's what happened. And just again, to give you a little bit of backstory, one of the reasons I was so interested in infomercials is I grew up in a lower middle class home. The town I'm from is Eagle Lake. My dad's a barber. He's 77 years old and he still cuts hair to this day. And we were lower middle class. I'm the oldest of 4. I barely passed high school. The only degree I ever got was a degree in ADHD. I was not good in anything, but I always wanted to be rich someday. I wanted to make a lot of money. But I didn't have the skills or resources around me to figure that out. But it was a huge motivator. So when I started marketing online, I thought, if I just learn these skills of persuasion and influence and product creation, maybe someday I could make $1 million too. Well, here's what happened. I got a message from my accountant one day, and we had just finished doing a launch. And I picked up what it then was the brand new iPhone. I was driving at the time, whoops, and I called up, dialed my mom, and I started to cry. And when my mom answered the phone, she said, "Hey, honey, what's wrong?" And I said, "Mom, it isn't what's wrong, it's what's right. Do you know how I've always talked about making $1 million someday?" And she goes, "Yep, that's all you talked about growing up." I said, "Well, I just made $1 million in a week." She said, "That was great." Well, we ended up having a conversation. She brought my dad in who was outside shoveling snow at the time, and I told him the good news, and my parents were very proud of me. And I told them that it wasn't just making the money that was important, it was the fact that I knew how to do it again. It was something that was replicable. So what happened next is my mom and dad said, "Well, this is really great. It's great to hear from you. We've got the grandkids are coming over for dinner tonight, so we're going to go and congratulations." You know, my parents really couldn't care about money, and quite honestly, they didn't even know what I did at the time. But it was a good story anyway. But where I just told you I figured out how to do it again, that was the first time I had ever made $1 million from doing a launch. And the bad news is that doesn't mean you get to keep it all. But here's what happened next. That April, we replicated our success. And we produced another program. This time it was something called Main Street Marketing Machines. And we had just opened up our shopping cart. It was April, nice spring day, and I had received a text from my accountant. And I was so excited. I picked up my phone again. I called up my mom and I said, "Mom, you remember how I called you just a few months ago and I told you we made $1 million in a week?" She goes, "Yeah, I remember that." She said, and I said, "Well, Mom, I just made $1 million in 44 minutes. And she goes, "Wow, honey, that's a lot better than a week, isn't it?" And we both laughed, and she says, "Well, let me call your dad in. He's out in the garden right now, and the grandkids are coming over for lunch in just a couple minutes, and you can tell them the good news." So I ended up chatting with my parents and told them the good news, and we laughed a little bit, and they thought it was all really, really cool. And while I was on the phone, just a few minutes later, and you can see this on the slide right here, I got another message. An hour and 14 minutes later, we hit $2 million in sales. And that was something that just changed my life because I knew there was a system, a formula for creating attention-getting, engaging content using online video. But at that point, we tried something new, something very exciting, and it was the idea of a live cast, being able to do a live broadcast with chat, where we'd be able to put the equivalent of an online TV show on that was entertaining, engaging, and also sold products. Well, what happened was we sold over $3 million worth of products in a single day with that single live cast. And back then, it cost about $20,000 just to pay for the bandwidth to put one of these shows on. It was expensive, it was complicated, and it was time-consuming. But the truth is, everything's changed since then. Now, I could go on and tell you, I've got a bunch of other bullet points on my slides here about how we continued to generate an enormous amount of revenue using product launches over and over again. And in fact, what I can tell you is, over the past few years, we've generated over $40 million in revenue just in our own businesses using product launches. Over half of that has come in as live casts. And I am here to tell you that I believe using interactive live online video with chat is one of, if not the most powerful way to connect, engage with, and promote your products and services. Now, the other thing that I will tell you is because of those launches, I ended up getting the attention of Tony Robbins. I was able to participate and be part of a program and a product that he created called the New Money Masters, along with several other large, well-known online marketers that I introduced to Tony, including Jeff Walker, Frank Kern, Brendan Burchard, Russell Brunson, and several others, all of which got to participate in this program as well. So I felt I had an opportunity to not only support and help Tony, but also introduce him to some of the most incredible, smart online marketers that exist to this day. That's also afforded me the opportunity to get to work with and connect with a whole bunch of celebrities and personalities. You can see some of them on the screen here in front of you. And those, of course, beyond Tony Robbins, I've become very good friends with people like J.J. Virgin, Tim Ferriss, John Assaraf, and some others as well, all of which came to me and said, "Will you support me? Will you help me and teach me some of your online video marketing skills and how to live cast as well?" All of which have gone on to be very, very successful at it. So what I wanted to do is just give you this information and get your mind thinking for a little while. There's nothing to buy here, but instead I wanted to just get you thinking about what to expect over the next couple weeks and months, because I'm going to share some additional videos with you, some additional training that I think you're going to enjoy as well. And so the first thing that you're going to start seeing are some brand new training videos that I'm going to mail out to you. Also, an update to a best-selling book that I have been involved in. Another one is I'm going to invite you to attend some live casts. Like I had said, I believe that live casts are now. It's the best time possible to learn how to do them and also take advantage of them for not just selling, but educating, entertaining, connecting with, and engaging with your audience. And if you don't have an audience or a list, it's a great way to build one as well. It's also a very effective way to create products too. And I'm also going to share with you a whole bunch of new profitable, fresh ideas and solutions that I think you're going to be able to use inside your business. So what I'd like to leave you with today is just pay attention to your mailbox, pay attention to some new ways that I plan to educate and entertain and engage with you. And if you have any comments at all, please share them below this video, and also share it on your Facebook, your Twitter, your LinkedIn page, or invite other people that you might know who may enjoy learning more about this content as well, or enjoy this story too. My name is Mike Koenigs. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.